at the end of the week on Saturday. We'll do that giveaway either Saturday or Sunday, depending on when we do the live stream. So, Tim, without further ado, whatever the heck that means, man, let's get into tonight's topic, dude. And that's going to be the 10 biggest questions before Packers training camp starts, man. I thought there was some really, really cool stuff in here. We're just going to kind of dive into it and give you guys a little bit of a training camp preview by talking about some of the questions we may or may not have geared around the Packers training camp. That makes sense. So let's just dive right in. The Green Bay Packers face a massive shift. For years, the secondary had an identity in Jair Alexander, but now he's gone. The team released its two-time All-Pro cornerback, a move that sent ripples through the team and fan base. He wasn't the only veteran defensive back to walk, making this a significant change for a team with sky-high expectations, with big holes, young talent, and a tough schedule. The 2025 season could hinge on the answers found in training camp. Today, we're breaking down the 10 biggest questions facing the Packers. These are the storylines that will define this team, define if this team can build on last year's success. And we're starting with the most glaring issues. So if this is your first time tuning into PTA, thanks for making us a part of your day and a part of your holiday weekend. Listen, we're not experts here. We're not insiders. You can tell that by the accent and my voice. We're just fans like you. We're fans of the Packers. We go live daily, talking everything Green Bay. We hit on pregame shows. We do postgame shows. We do film breakdown, which we're going to break down a Chalk Talk tonight at Josh Jacobs' explosive runs from the 2024 season. All that stuff, breaking news all year long. We're also going to be diving into training camp coverage as soon as it cranks up here around, some of the players report on the 18th. However, the majority of the players will be in-house on the 23rd. So what we're going to be doing is every evening giving you everything we learned about that training camp practice earlier that day. And, Tim, I don't know about you, man. That was one of my favorite things to do so far, especially when we catch a training camp practice that's open on a Saturday and just go live during it or immediately as it's wrapping up and get all the updates in real time. It's awesome, man. So I know you're going to be boots on the ground at training camp for some of those practices as well, man. It's going to be exciting.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's not, it might be Christmas, I guess, but this is kind of like our Christmas, man. Training camp. There was a point in my life when I used to be a fan that would say, it's just preseason. It's camp. And then you get addicted when you start really learning how a team is formulated and you see guys getting cut. You see guys stepping in. We'll get a few random free agents that show up off the street that are going to be some camp bodies, the whole shebang. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'll be hanging out as close to the fence as I can get. And I might try and jump it if I can. We'll see. I'll do the best to get some video and some shots of what I'm able to. And we'll break it down every day.
Yeah, we got a rule. Tim, get as much knowledge, as much footage as you can, but do not get the handcuffs slapped on you. Let's push it to the limit, but never get banned from Packers practice for sure. So,
absolutely.
Again, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you know every time we go live. We appreciate y'all this evening. All right, let's jump into it, man. Number one question, Tim. Who emerges as the starting cornerbacks after the roster overhaul? This is question number one. With the Jair Alexander era over and 2021 first-rounder Eric Stokes signing with the Raiders, the Packers aren't just looking for a cornerback, too. They're building an entirely new starting lineup. The strategy is clear. Get younger. They signed versatile free agent Nate Hobbs, and obviously the versatility comes with him being able to play the slot, who gives DC Jeff Hafley flexibility. He'll compete with young talent like all-pro returner Keyshawn Nixon, who's expected to take on a larger defensive role, and Carrington Valentine, a 2023 seventh-rounder who showed legitimate promise. Beyond them, it's a question mark, with seventh-round rookie Micah Robinson from Tulane being an unknown, and Kalen King trying to break into the 53-man roster as well, who was a seventh-rounder last year, who did not make the final 53, although he did get a little bit of playing time as the year went on, being on the practice squad. This camp battle isn't for depth. It's to find a starting combo that can survive against the NFC's elite receivers. So, man, that's the big question. Javon Bullard started in the slot last year for the most part. He had to kick back out to safety when Evan Williams got a little banged up down the stretch. When you're talking about the starting cornerback room, Tim, that's the question I think that's on the forefront of most Packers' minds, right? And we got the PFF grades right here from everybody who's returning. I want to get your take on it first, and then I'll give my take of who I think the starting three should be. And the reason we say starting three, gang, is because we're going to be in that nickel 4-2-5 about somewhere between 70 and 80% of the snaps. And obviously it's a zone-heavy approach as well there from Hafley last year. But Tim, you have the floor, sir. What do you think, man? Who emerges as starting cornerbacks after the roster overall?
Read this list top to bottom. Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs. There's your corners. I hate to be boring, but at least, again, we're not even at camp yet. So we'll see how things develop as this team gets put together. But honestly, I think it's going to be CV, it's going to be Keyshawn, and it's going to be Nate Hobbs. Those are going to be your top three. That's just early feelings on the matter.
Yeah, I like what Daryl says. Stokes wasn't that good in the last 2 years, only to have a younger corner outperform him on every play. Completely agree, Daryl. And that's why when I see, Stokes walking free agency, not a big deal, right? I know this catch a lot of hell for this over Jair Alexander's departure. You guys know I said for $6 million, which is what we could have had him back at, I would have loved to have had Jair back. I think that's money well spent. However, I'm not going to sit here and kid myself into thinking that he was just all-world player the last, couple of years. It just wasn't the case, Now, could he return to his all-pro form if that's the case? Heck yeah, man. It's worth a little bit of a headache and the disagreements that goes along with it. But, yeah, I completely agree with you, Daryl. Stokes did not play well, man. Did not play well at all. Randy Cleaver's in the chat says CV, Hobbs, and Nixon. I'm with you and Tim, Randy. And like he said, when you look at the PFF grades going from top to bottom, Carrington Valentine is the highest graded cornerback that's returning this year with a 65.5. Keyshawn Nixon is second at 64.1. Nate Hobbs is third at 61.4. And then Javon Bullard coming in fourth there at a 54.2. And then you see no grades for the rest of these corners, Tim. So guys that haven't had a whole lot of experience, man, right? So when I look at the cornerback room from top to bottom, I think it's going to be Carrington Valentine, starting at right cornerback, Keyshawn starting at left cornerback, Nate Hobbs playing the slot, Javon Bullard's going to be in the bullpen, ready to come out to play safety or slot if somebody gets banged up, breaks a shoelace, whatever it may be. I think that's how it'll line up. Now, when you go to your base, that's going to be the big question. Does Carrington Valentine stay on the field, or does Keyshawn Nixon stay on the field? And the reason I say it's because I think we all agree with the money that Nate Hobbs is going to be getting paid this year. Tim, he's going to stay on the field for that base defense just like he did for the Raiders, I would imagine. And again, PFF grades aren't everything, guys. This is just a quick metric we can look at. Now, I will say this. When the PFF grades, you got a guy at the top, and then you look at the passer rating when targeted, and you got a guy at the top, and then you look at his run defensive snaps, and boy, oh boy, did he impress. People like Carrington Valentine, that's when you earmark those, Tim, and go, hey, this is the dude. But what do you think about the base defense, man? Who are going to be the corners there?
I think CV could stay on the field if we see that run D come up a little bit. If he adds that to his game and improves in that category, I mean, we're looking at PFF grades right now. That is probably the sorest spot of his game. Now, obviously, a dude like that, you're not overly concerned, right? You want him to be at least decent or effective in the run, and you want his coverage skills to be what we've seen with him as a boundary corner. But when you're talking base, yeah, if you're going to be just that guy, you got to be effective against, the occasional run for sure in the base. So I would think that would be kind of one part of his game he could work on. But I'm with you, man. I kind of think it might be Keyshawn that ends up being that guy.
Yeah. 2-0 for this says this will be the Kalen Kingdom. I love it. Love what he did there, man. H.E. Solder asking the tough questions. Has anyone figured out why King had that catastrophic last year at Penn State? I'm not a huge Penn State watcher. Solder, I do know that Kalen King was projected to be the top corner in the draft going into his final college football season. And like you said, he plummeted. There's been a lot of people that are around the Penn State, program said that the reason he looked so good the year before was because I think it was Joey Porter Jr. I believe that's who it was. I could be wrong. It was another corner that got drafted in the first round. You guys correct me if you can figure out who it was. And they're saying, hey, that dude was covering the number one receivers, and now he had to step into that role and kind of got cooked a little bit. I don't know enough about it. I do know this. I completely agree with Goody taking a seventh-round flyer on a guy that some thought was going to be the best cornerback coming into the draft. That's worth a swing there that maybe you kind of rekindled that. So it looks like Chris the Casual says that's correct. Like, thank you so much for confirming there, but we really, really appreciate it.
Kalen King's certainly one of those guys at the top of your list, though, that you want to see. Especially once camp gets kicked off, right? And, pay attention to these preseason games. You're going to get to see some of these younger corners put in work. And I think Kalen King's probably at the top of the list for guys that I'd be really looking forward to see. Kamal Haddon being number 2. And then obviously, our new guy, Micah Robinson. If one of those tier level guys can really step up and, make a run at a roster spot, at least make it hyper competitive there.